I lay tense in my single bed, occasionally glancing towards a snoozing Aaron from across the room, whose presence would often offer comfort amongst the damp atmosphere which was currently battering itself against the windows from the outside. At least I wasn't alone during these hellish storms. As I glanced back at the window for the second time, hearing another crackle of thunder ripple throughout the dark night, I shiver a little at the thought of being stuck outdoors on a night like this. It was times like these in which I would often remind myself just how thankful I was for my mother's decision to surrender and follow the new laws of the beast. For if we hadn't, we wouldn't have lasted a single night out in those drastically changing, severe weather conditions. We would have been left out in the wild to rot, trying to either survive on our own or avoid being captured and killed as rebels, neither of which would have suited our situation. At the mere age of 12, my mother knew that there would be no other way other than to give ourselves up and to surrender to the plain and simple truth of the war, that they had won. The beasts were simply unbeatable, not only in smarts, but mostly in sheer dominance and strength against us humans. The real fact was that we were set up to lose right from the very start of the war. It was simply a no-brainer. It was a fate brought upon us by the humans themselves, since we did used to coexist for many years with the werewolves. That was until the greed of mankind completely took over and crossed the line with the creatures. One thing led to another with our leaders, and before we knew it, the beasts came at us full force, killing thousands of those who even dared to fight them back. My mom was smart, though, and knew what we had to do in order to keep our lives, even if that meant surrendering to the wolves completely. But I guess one of the benefits of the wolves being in charge now was that they needed us just as much, if not more, than what we needed them in order to survive. Their female wolves were almost extinct due to a deadly virus targeting them over the years, which only left one other option for them in order to save their own kind: to pair up and mate with us humans. Luckily for us, rumor has it that if we behave and do exactly as we are told, our lives with a male can only change for the better, bringing vast comfort, protection, and riches for as long as we shall live. But the key part to that statement was the "if we behave," in which would only determine our fate. It was well known that the wolves had tricky tempers which could be set off completely by the simplest of mistakes. If we so dared as to even piss off any of the males, the probable chance would be that we wouldn't live to see another day. That's all we were ever taught here on the campus. Good behavior and cooperation means a good life, and bad behavior and zero cooperation would probably result in death or extreme torturous abuse in which no female wanted to endure. We had been warned from a young age, and as far as I knew, they were fair creatures as long as we could keep them happy, and so with that, I tried to keep a positive mind. That's exactly what this campus is for, to teach and prepare us as much as humanly possible before we move into a life with a partner. I had so far spent 5 years here, learning and preparing for my own judgment day, in which was now fast approaching and could fall on any chosen day that suited the males as of tomorrow. It saddened me, though, to glance over at my best friend Erin asleep in her bed, knowing that unless we both are selected by males of the same sector, the chances are that we could be split up and never see one another again. Erin was my rock here, being my one and only loyal friend, since many of the other females on our campus were bitchy and often cruel to us both at times. I couldn't quite imagine living somewhere else across the country without Erin, or even my mom for that matter. I'll miss them terribly. When the season begins tomorrow, the males are set to travel around the country to visit the eligible humans held at each campus, meaning the ones 17, 18, or older in which are still single and ready for pairing. The single beasts travel around in groups yearly, staying together in their own packs before rotating from area to area in search of their chosen human, someone who ticks all of the boxes on what they desire for a lifelong partner. Growing up before they took over, it was always just me and my mom, and despite us always knowing about the wolves, we made sure to keep our distance and to be respectful to them. So far, we hadn't encountered many of the males during our time here either, and had only really seen them in passing when they would come on the judgment days of previous years, when we were still too young to participate. I often didn't mind living here on campus either, since the good thing about coming to this place was that I could still visit my mom every fortnight. The agreement was that if we surrendered without trouble, I would be permitted to stay in touch with her until my final day here when I am selected, and so far, they had kept their end of the agreement for many years. At the beginning, My mom was deemed as being too old to be eligible to take the place of a mate, and therefore she was placed to work in one of the nearby pack towns. Currently, she works in a cafe just short of an hour's drive away, where the owner is kind, and she has friends there to make each day pleasant for her. She was also given a small apartment, fully furnished with everything she needs along with regular pay from her job. My mom was living proof that the beasts were, in fact, fair to us as long as we followed their rules and complied with the way in which they wished to run things these days. Apparently, whenever I am picked by a male, they will be obliged to pay out money to my family too, which for me only consists of my mom, as a thank you for our service and to ensure that she is taken care of fully in my absence. As a result, though, she won't be guaranteed to ever see me again, which breaks my heart to even think too much about. Tessa? Why aren't you asleep yet? We need to get up early tomorrow. I turn my head to find Erin as she pushes herself up onto her elbows, eyes barely open in her half-asleep state. Erin, like me, was an only child who wasn't fortunate enough to have any family left after the war many years ago. Instead, Erin would regularly attend my visits with my mom where she would be treated like a daughter all the same. As a result of Erin not having parents, she was taken in by the staff here and was raised here in the facility in order to give her the best shot at survival, and luckily, we had been roommates since day one. The storm, every time I doze off, it wakes me back up again. I complain, watching as she turns her head to view the soaked window with the wind whistling violently from outside it, the trees still shaking and the sounds of their fine branches snapping. Oh, I see. I didn't even hear it. Erin shakes her head slightly with a scoff, causing me to giggle at her. As her lifelong roommate, I can confirm that she was an extremely deep sleeper who would often sleep talk or even walk on the odd night. The uncontrollable habit was something we both regularly worried over, though, thinking about the day when she would be selected by her given male. Would it bug him? Or will he understand that it's just a part of who she is? We agreed that it would be best for her to inform any of the men interested in her right from the start, so that they could decide from there if it would irritate them or not, to avoid her being punished down the line. You should sleep, Tessa. You never know when they will come, and you don't want dark circles hanging under your eyes when they do. Erin jokes, releasing another yawn. But before I could utter another word in response, the horrific orange light hanging above our bedroom door begins to flicker to life, before the familiar bellowing siren soon follows suit. Not now. Erin groans loudly as my eyes grow wide, glancing back at the window which was still displaying the current storm. I dart upright, as Erin does the same, knowing that we don't have much time to pull on some warmer clothes along with appropriate footwear for the weather. It was the evacuation alarm. The very alarm that nobody wishes to go off in such conditions. Yet this wasn't a first time either that they had done this type of thing to us. Why this again? Erin mumbles out in a panic as we scamper around the room like rats to find some appropriate clothes to wear. Come on, Erin. You know what happens to those who don't get out of here quick enough. I rush her, pulling on a large hoodie and joggers as she finally finds a jacket to pull over herself. Last time the alarm went off, 5 girls were punished due to taking too long to exit the accommodation buildings. We weren't supposed to waste time changing or finding warm clothes, and instead, we were expected to exit as is, which nobody stuck to for their own sakes of keeping warm and dodging the flu from out there. Instead, everyone would rush to find shoes and clothes, leaving less time to actually get downstairs and outside to make it for the lineup. Okay, I'm ready, Erin confirms, before I grab her hand in mine and rush us out into the bustling corridors. It was all girls aged 17 and 18 in our building, all of which were eligible now to be selected as mates by the male beasts. We had dealt with this alarm many times before now, which only made the staff tougher on us just to prove a point and to help avoid anyone stepping out of line. It was a mere reminder of who was in charge. Ow! Erin suddenly cries, yanking at my hand as she is shoved down onto the floor by a taller girl who pushes her way through without mercy. My heart rate quickens as I pull her up to stand again, ensuring that we keep up with the flow of people exiting the building, the aim being to get lost amongst the crowd and to go unnoticed. Why are they doing this tonight? Erin complains, as I shake my head in silent agreement with her rants. The chaotic scene intensifies as we join the sea of hurried girls, all scrambling to reach the designated assembly point. Flashlights scan the corridors, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. However, something tells me that it won't actually be that urgent, mostly just a crappy drill, but we comply nonetheless. As we reach the outdoor assembly area, a cold wind cuts through the air, causing us to huddle together for warmth before the slashes of rain begin to soak us through. The orange emergency lights cast eerie shadows on the tense faces around us. The staff members, clad in their authoritative and warm uniforms, make sure everyone is present and accounted for as they begin to tick off registers for each year group. The headmistress, a stern woman with a commanding presence, eventually steps forward, her voice amplified by the emergency speakers. Attention, candidates. Due to unforeseen circumstances, tonight's evacuation is a precautionary measure to ensure that we still have our full numbers before the arrival of a very important pack tomorrow. Remain calm, follow our instructions, and we hope to be back inside soon when everyone is accounted for. She states bluntly, pausing to glance us over. The arrival of a very important pack? They seem more uptight than usual. I wonder what pack it is. Aaron mumbles from beside me as I nod in agreement. Take this as a reminder of just how fortunate you all are to be here, living under the Dawn laws, for if it weren't for our new leaders, you would all be stuck out in this storm with nowhere to go. Mrs. Felicity continues as her staff dart around and continue to sign off their registers. So it's confirmed. Tomorrow could be the start of the rest of my life, for better or for worse. Ugh. No matter how much makeup I use, I still have those damn circles under my eyes. I'm blaming Mrs. Felicity for this, you know. Keeping us all outside in that damn storm last night. Does she seriously want those wolves thinking that none of us get any sleep and don't take care of ourselves? Erin rambles on quickly in her rant as she waves her mascara wand around frantically as she talks. Last night wasn't a first evacuation drill for us, however. It wasn't ideal timing for us either, considering that our Judgment Day begins today. At least we got a few hours in. I was wide awake even before the alarm. I'm running on an hour of sleep at most. I tell her in a laugh, combing back my high blonde ponytail, securing it neatly on the top of my head with a hair tie. My makeup looked okay, and my hair was neat and tidy to show that I did, in fact, take pride in my appearance, which was one of the key things we had been taught on campus. Always look your best. It's okay. We look good. If we both don't get picked out today, then that just means that there's a better wolf out there who will come with the next pack to sweep us off our feet. Erin concludes, zipping up her makeup bag and standing to glance herself over once more from head to toe. Her light brown hair was perfectly waved, with a small black ribbon securing the front pieces back, keeping them away from her face. The plan was that we are set to go about our normal school day on campus, attending our classes and activities as normal until the assembly bell is sounded. It would no doubt be sounded out today or tomorrow, depending on how late or early the first pack arrived to the campus, but we were taught to always be prepared. So, we assemble in the sports hall when the alarm goes off, and they come to look at us all in there? Erin questions as I tug on my sports shorts and top set, seeing as I have dance class for the first part of the day. Dance was an activity I had selected since we were all meant to showcase a talent to the wolves in order to help us stand out. It was something in which I found joy in, and the teachers in the class seemed to really like me and think that I was good, despite the other girls regularly telling me otherwise. Erin, however, was into music and loved to sing and play the piano, with a voice like a true angel. Yeah, that's right, and all we have to hope for is that one male puts our number down as their top 3 to move on to the next stage. That's when they can properly get to know us a little better before they make their choice. I explain, running over the step-by-step process in which we had been given over the years in order to prepare us for this day. Nothing should go wrong. It's easy. We hear the alarm and we make our way to the hall to line up to be viewed. After that, it's up to the wolves. Okay, well, we better walk over there. We only have 10 minutes until the day starts. Erin comments, checking her small silver wristwatch, as I nod and collect my backpack. The walk was quick, as we glanced around at the other girls leaving the building to head over towards the main campus, all pristine and composed in an attempt to look their absolute best today. The air buzzed with nervous anticipation as we approached the main study building. Erin's optimism was contagious, providing a small comfort amidst the looming uncertainty of our Judgment Day. Everybody has seriously went all out. I reckon most of the girls will get picked this year. Hopefully we get lucky too, and maybe even get one from a decent pack. Erin grinned as I followed in behind her as she weaved her way through the hallways. I mean, can you imagine? Being selected by one of the leading packs. I heard that we would be treated like royalty. Erin giggles, glancing back at me from over her shoulder before checking her watch once again. Erin was always on time, which hadn't been my own strong suit over the years, having been punished on multiple occasions for my lack of timekeeping. Bell is set to go, any minute. Erin raised a finger, but before she could even finish, the ringing noise sounded out throughout the echoing halls, commanding for us to head to our first class of the day. I guess I'll see you at break, given that the alarm doesn't sound out before then, and that we have to line up. I state, as Erin nods, and we say a brief goodbye and hurry to our locations. It didn't take me long to reach my class, seeing the frosted doors to the studio up ahead. The vibrant mirrors and polished wooden floors had always been a sanctuary for me, a place where I could lose myself in the rhythm and movement and perfect my craft. But little did I know that the familiar faces that awaited me in the room would soon turn this haven into a nightmare once again. The absence of our regular dance teacher left an unsettling void as I stilled at the doors, gaining the attention of my fellow classmates who had arrived before me. Instead, one of the head girls, Jessica, seemed to assume control as she stood at the front, arms folded tightly and face looking amused. Her disdain for me was no secret, and her position as the class leader provided the perfect opportunity for her to unleash her cruelty on me at any given time. This could be bad. As you can all see, I have actually been put in charge today because Miss Layla is off sick. Jessica's high-pitched voice announces to the room, her confidence seeping through with each word. My feet moved slowly from my spot at the door as I placed my bag to the side, removed my shoes and found a space, aiming to hide away in the back behind the other girls. As the class commenced, the air thickened with hostility as Jessica regularly asked me to demonstrate moves and made it clear that she knew I was in here, despite my attempts to go unnoticed. Jessica and her followers wasted no time as their comments started out as giggling whispers, which gradually escalated into cruel taunts directed right at me. Come on, Tessie, try harder. If any male seen you throwing your body around like that, they would no doubt spew. A girl, Gretchen, snorts out a laugh as my cheeks flare a bright red. The dance routine quickly transformed into a nightmare as they deliberately sabotaged my steps, causing me to stumble and falter as we moved from place to place, with someone occasionally bumping into me or tripping me up across the floor. Clothes were the first casualty, as I felt the hand of whoever stood behind me in the line pull at the neck collar of my shirt with both hands, successfully ripping the thin material from the back. Let's hope that you wore a bra today, skank. Molly, being the perpetrator this time, sneers. A malicious tug here, followed by a forceful yank there as the other girls joined in, and finally, my once pristine dance attire lay torn and tattered as my mind swirled to catch up with the torment happening around me. I now stood in my sports bra, which was too thick to rip, and my shorts, which now had a tear up the leg, leaving me feeling more exposed than what I was to begin with having wore shorts today. This treatment was different because they would often make comments and occasionally pinch or trip me up during class, but today they seemed to be going all out to totally destroy me. Laughter echoed throughout the studio as my hair became the next victim of the assault, as I lost all track of how many girls now participated around me in the heinous sabotage. My once neat ponytail, which had been meticulously styled an hour ago, became a chaotic mess of knots and disarray, causing me to hiss after each violent tug and pull. The pinnacle of their cruelty came when they targeted my makeup, smearing it with vindictive glee. My attempts to escape and defend myself only fueled their aggression as I pushed their hands away and attempted to head towards the door, only to be pulled back by two rough hands which caused for me to fall down. Please. Just let me go. I cry out, feeling a kick to my back before more kicks follow to my legs as I groan and attempt to get up once more. Ella, look guys. My name's Tessie, and I'm so scared of going to my D-dance class with my F friends. Jessica mimics my stutter, causing the room to erupt in hysterical laughter. The studio, once filled with the promise of self-expression, became a battleground where I fought to preserve my dignity, only to be pushed and kicked repeatedly. To think that she actually tried to look good today for the wolves. As if she would ever be picked. Another giggles loudly, as my cheeks flare red with both embarrassment and upset. The tears stream down my face as I continue to beg and cry for help or mercy, receiving nothing of the sort. Why today? When I had actually felt good about myself and my appearance. Now I was a broken mess, laying amongst them on the floor with no escape. In the midst of the chaos, they even seized my shoes and bag from across the room, the last remnants of my composure, before they callously tossed them out of the second-story window. I watched on, helpless, as they took joy in stripping me of every last bit of dignity I had left. But just on that note, with what I thought could never get any worse, I tense when hearing the dreaded assembly alarm finally piercing itself out into the room amongst the torment, signaling an end to the dance class, but the beginning of a more pressing challenge, the arrival of the wolves. The girls all stilled, eyes growing wide, before they instantly rushed towards the dance wall mirrors, checking their untouched faces and hair once more before grabbing their shoes and rushing for the door, their attention no longer on me as their victim. This cannot be happening. Not right now. With my clothes torn, makeup smeared, legs bruised, and hair in complete disarray, I lay on the studio floor, a broken mess as I breathed heavily in a panicked attempt to compose myself. As the alarm continued to sound, the girls hastily rushed their way to the assembly point, leaving me abandoned, my mind thumping with options on what to do next, finding that I don't actually have many options. The assembly awaited my arrival, and I had no time to salvage my appearance whatsoever. With a trembling breath, I forced myself to stand up, clutching at the tattered shreds of my dignity as I approached the mirrors, feeling the aches in my legs spring to life. The clock ticked mercilessly as the 5-minute timer ticked closer to stop as I eventually stumbled towards the exit, barefoot and bruised with no other choice but to show face. The consequences of being a no-show at the assembly were far worse than facing the wolves in this deplorable state, believe it or not. It was official. No male would be picking me for their top 3 today, that was for sure, and so I would just have to try again for the next pack's arrival. However, I prayed that Aaron wouldn't be taken away from me this time now. I wiped away my falling tears, summoning a strength I didn't know I possessed as I pushed myself on quickly down the hallways, ignoring the black mascara smears now painting the backs of my hands after each aggressive wipe. The walk to the assembly hall felt like a journey through a nightmare. Each step closer echoed the scars inflicted upon me, and the idea of facing the judgmental gazes of the male wolves only helped to intensify my anxiety. As the doors to the assembly hall loomed up ahead, I took a deep breath and raced my way inside, seeing all of the other girls in my year group, evenly spaced around the hall and silent. The wolves hadn't yet arrived, which I was thankful to have bet them here, before I hurried to find a spot up the back, unable to find Aaron amongst the large gathering, which left me with no other choice but to face this whole event alone. Ignoring the curious stares and sniggers, the bell soon stopped, meaning that time was done, and that the wolves would be entering any moment now. I chewed my lip, feeling a single tear trickle down my face before hearing the sound of the 2 entry doors opening and the murmuring of deep voices following suit. This is my first ever judgment day, and it all had to go completely wrong. The assembly hall buzzed with anticipation as I stood there, battered and bruised, among the numbers of pristine girls. As the doors swung open, revealing the entrance of the male wolves, the murmurs amongst the many eager girls instantly grew hushed. I scanned the room in one last desperate attempt to find Aaron amongst the numerous faces, however find little luck when she was nowhere to be seen. My heart rate quickened as I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage I could muster as I glanced towards the doors to see the large outlines of the entering males, who each of which seemed far too huge in height than what was necessary. I quickly darted my eyes downwards, not wanting to make any unwanted eye contact with any of the beasts, hoping that none of them would even think to wander up towards the back of the hall for my own sake. The wolves were majestic and imposing, their presence alone seeming to push masses of dominant energy out into the hall as it became almost suffocating to be around. Okay, ladies, I would like to introduce you all to the Blood Royals pack. We are extremely proud to say that the pack had actually requested to visit our campus first out of all other facilities to make their judgment. The familiar voice of Mrs. Felicity announced out into a microphone, her tone now very different to her usual frostiness. She seemed to be putting on the whole, "I'm so sweet" act for the males, which was no surprise to me. However, I still chose to keep my eyes fixated on my bare feet below, despite the inch of amusement that bubbled beneath the surface. "This is so embarrassing," was all I could think as I stared down at my, thankfully painted, red toenails below, being the only girl in the room with no socks or shoes on. You know how this works, girls, but I am here to remind you all one last time before we begin, just in case any of your memories are foggy amongst the excitement. Mrs. Felicity continues with a false giggle, causing my skin to itch with discomfort. "The lovely males here will take a little walk around to look at you all, and you will remain silent unless directly spoken to." She exaggerates the "will" as a soft threat to anyone who would dare to go against her training in front of such established creatures. Mrs. Felicity knew just as well as we did that these wolves could have her position on campus stripped if they ever suspected that she wasn't doing a great job. I would imagine that her job pays exceptionally well too, so she wouldn't want that, since it was considered a respectable position after all. "The males will then take down 3 of your numbers, which you all should have memorized for today, and those lucky 3 will proceed to a further interview stage lasting around 15 minutes before that same 3 will be narrowed down to 2, or maybe even 1, depending on how well you do." She explains, detailing the process just as we had been taught it year in and year out. I just needed this whole thing to speed up so that I could get out of here. I even wished for the ground to open up beneath my feet and swallow me whole in this scenario, which would be my more favorable option. If Mrs. Felicity sees me looking like this, she will no doubt lose her mind with me too. I'll be expecting a definite punishment for just standing here like this, no doubt. "Good luck, ladies. Let's begin." I gulp when hearing her words, before the shuffling of the men start up again, signifying that they had begun moving around. "Please don't come up to the back corner. Please don't come anywhere near me." My heart raced, knowing all too well that my appearance betrayed any hope of being chosen today, yet all I could worry over now was whether Aaron would be chosen or not. All we both ever wanted was to be picked by males from the same pack with at least some hope of seeing one another again, but perhaps I've ruined that chance for us both now. Seconds stretched into long, agonizing minutes as I squirmed from foot to foot anxiously, arms folded to cover up my exposed stomach as best I could. I could hear little conversations sparking up from around the room, insinuating that the wolves had stopped to question some of the girls already, which could no doubt be taken as a good sign for them. So far, I was grateful that none had seemed to approach our corner of the room, but with that thought alone my heart was suddenly stopped by the sight of 2 large, expensive-looking black sneakers coming into my view. I blinked a few times, but unfortunately I wasn't dreaming. They were definitely right in front of me. Me. But why me? Why has he stopped this close? Probably wondering what the hell I am even doing in here, no doubt, looking this ugly amongst the rest. "You." I instantly jump when hearing his sharp tone, his voice grainy and commanding. "Me?" I all but whimper, my eyes still set on his 2 shoes before my tongue darts out to lick my drying lips quickly before it hides back inside of my mouth. "Look at me when I speak to you, human." My mouth falls in horror at realizing just how rude he must think I am. Damn it if I've already pissed one of them off. That's the last thing I need. With that, I crank my neck up slowly, deciding that my best bet here would be to do as he says, and hopefully he will spare my life before he leaves this place. As I lifted my head, his body seemed to be never-ending as I looked up higher and higher before finally meeting his eyes, as he stood proudly, easily somewhere over 6 foot compared to my tiny 5'2" frame. Those eyes, holy mother of... is all he mumbles, as he cocks his head slightly to the side and furrows his brows in slight confusion. His facial features were stern and sculpted, his jaw chiseled by the gods themselves. His hair was dark, almost black, contrasting with his piercing green eyes, which any girl in here could easily get lost in, and just to top it all off, he didn't even look that old despite his stubble, tattoos, and muscles screaming otherwise. He was still young, maybe in his early 20s? I was ashamed to even have such a man stand here before me, Looking at me like this, it was considered a sin at this rate. Do you even have a number, human? His dry question suggests a glint of sarcasm, as I swallow the thick lump forming in my throat in order to find my voice to answer him. Great, he doesn't even think that I have a number, because I look this poor. Probably thinks I just snuck in here for a shot with him. How embarrassing. Yes, it's 629, sir. I whisper, ashamed that I was even playing into his mockery. However, I couldn't leave the mail unanswered. Why does he even have the time to do this with me right now, when he could be waltzing himself around here to look at the other, more suited, females? Louder. What are you, a fucking mouse? He groans in agitation, as my palms grow sweaty and my head spins in terror. Sorry, sir. And my number is 629. I force out my words again with increased volume in fear that the creature would lose his temper easily and wind up snapping my fragile neck just for the inconvenience. We were taught that these males were not to be tampered with. At all costs, don't piss them off. Yet here I am. A silence formed between us, as the similar process continued from around the room. I glanced awkwardly to watch the other girls who were curiously getting questioned, often giggling up at the males or twirling their hair in an attempt to flirt. How were they so confident at this? Around these large men, too. Just as I was about to look back at the imposing male stood before me, another beast in my eye lines suddenly moved aside, allowing me to catch a glimpse at Erin through the crowd. My eyes grow desperate, watching her own head turn as her gaze finally lands directly on mine. Her eyes widened instantly, scanning over my disheveled appearance in horror before she decided to mime the words, "What happened?" to me in a panic. I was ready to answer, before soon being snapped back to my current reality. Who is she? I turned back to face the large fortress of a man before me, seeing that he hadn't yet become bored of me and moved on to the next yet. "And my best friend, sir," I reply, earning a stiff nod from him before his head turns to look back in the direction of Erin. Why was he seriously still standing here, choosing to talk to me of all people in this damn room? Thankfully, before our conversation could proceed any further, a little bell sounded out, less aggressive than the others we were used to hearing. Okay, everybody, that's time up. Wolves, if you would please follow our guides back outside, and girls, you will now have a brief break to wait in here, and if you have been selected, you will be guided through to the interview rooms to proceed for stage 2. Mrs. Felicity begins again through the microphone, and I can't quite say I have ever been this glad to hear the woman's voice in my life until now. The male before me walks off without a second look, as I shamefully take in his large muscular frame from behind as he waltzes off, head held high, with a natural sense of pride surrounding him. I release a sharp gasp, one in which I didn't realize I had been holding until he had left. That was so damn intense, just having him standing so close to me. It was like nothing I had ever experienced before. On the bright side, though, things could have went way worse for me this time. I could have been questioned by more than one wolf, or could have maybe even pissed some of them off for looking so bad for them. They could have easily seen my appearance today as a true insult to their kind, almost as if I didn't want to cooperate with the laws of the Judgment Day or make an effort. As the last male left the room, the masses of girls jumped into a giddy frenzy, racing towards their friends to tell one another their squealing tales of conversations they had just had with their first ever male encounters. I instead could do nothing but melt down to the floor, hugging my knees to my chest as my lungs began to burn rapidly. It only took mere seconds before Erin reached me, crouching to my side as she pushed stray strands of hair back from my face. "Tessa, what the hell happened to you? Where are your shoes?" Erin rambled, fully glancing me over as her hands reached out for my shoulders in a panic. With that, I completely folded, sobbing out loudly before my friend crushed me into her chest, choosing to sit in the corner with me in her arms regardless of who was watching us now. She thankfully still looked just as perfect as she did this morning, unlike me. "Sure, it's okay now. You done fine. You held it together well." Erin hushed me, rubbing comforting circles across my back as I choked and sniffled for air. It was them again. It was Jessica, Molly, and all of the girls in my dance class. They hit me, kicked me, ruined my hair and makeup, and they even tossed my stuff out of the window, including my shoes. Erin. I pulled back from her hold in order to recant the story of what had happened, my head thumping viciously. All I want is to go back home, back to my room where I can hide in there and cry alone away from this dreadful place. Those damn bitches. Out of all of the days to decide to do this too, and they had to pick this one? Erin complains, sharing my frustration as she wipes my face with her sleeves as best she can. I open my mouth to continue before the same little bell rings, causing Erin's eyes to widen as she pulls me up to stand with her. They didn't even give us 5 minutes. It's going to be okay. We will be home soon, don't worry. I'll see you back there, okay? I love you. Erin gives my shoulders a squeeze as I nod and wipe at my own face to hide my tears as best as possible. I love you too. I manage to whimper before I watch Erin rush back across the room to her original spot as everyone else does the same. What happens now? Do we just wait here a while until they get through the numbers and then we can go? Right, ladies? I am excited to say that we have had many selections this year to proceed to stage 2. Mrs. Felicity returns as I glance over her own pristine and polished appearance, clearly another act in order to please our guests. So, let's not waste any time then, girls. If you hear your number for group 1, then make your way towards the exit doors to be shown to the appropriate room for the interview. She explains as I sigh, hating that I have to endure this whole process in such a state. 591-108-266-439. Oh, that's Erin, I think, as my eyes dart over to watch her eyes grow wide before she turns to glance over at me. All I can do in this moment is force a smile and give her a nod of encouragement as she nods back, takes a shaky breath, and heads for the door. She made it to round 2, which only means that I probably won't ever see her again if she is selected. Number 629. I won't say it again. I jump when hearing Mrs. Felicity grow agitated and snap through the mic, before my blood feels like it's draining from my face. Did she just say, number 629? Don't make us get our register up to drag you over there ourselves. She confirms the number once again, as my feet instantly rush towards the doors, making myself known to her before facing any punishment for my ignorance. Number 629, that's maybe, but that can't be right. Why?